What is up? This is one of those late night, couldn't sleep without giving the message type of videos because I just have been so restless and everyone's been asking me about Woman Evolve and how Woman Evolve went and how the conference was, and there was just a lot to it. So I figured what better way than a video um, to say what's going on, to say what happened, and to say where I stand right now and how that looks for me moving forward as an individual. Um, One of my biggest fears was just not really being respected or losing followers or losing people that I really adore and I've made these great bonds with. But I think if anyone at this point feels like they know me and want to have an open opinion about me and it's in a negative form, that's not my problem, because the only person's opinion who matters is my own at this point. And I think that it's 100% time to admit that, because I've spent so much time, like, Lord have me my words, so much time worrying about other people and how it would affect things. But I think that not only will this transitional phase connect me with the right people, but it'll also show me who the right people are that are around me. And yes, I'm in my robe, but I do have, like, this is a top, like it's an actual top, y'all. I'm not like whatever. Anyway, so Women Evolve Conference, if a lot of people don't know, that was the first Women Evolve Conference, I believe. No, second, I think. Um, the other one last year, I believe, was called Woman Thou Art Loosed. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, if y'all know and I don't. And that one was where Bishop T.D. Jakes actually crowned or anointed Sarah Jakes Roberts, his daughter, um, pastor, in spite of her being a woman. So her goal as a pastor was to get all these women together. It was 40,000 women together in the same conference. It's like a spiritual conference, so you're receiving healing on your mind, body, and soul. So there's worship, there's praise and worship, there is a sermons, there's TED Talks, basically pillow talks, or things like that, different panels, there was different pop-ups, things like that. So just to give you an idea of what this is, it was in Dallas, Texas, or Arlington, either one. From my understanding and my traveling, they're not that far apart. It's kind of like the same thing, I believe. So anyway, I bought the Women Evolve ticket last year in 2022, actually. I had lost the father figure of my children and at the end of 2021. So there was a lot of things that had taken place in that year or so that I had done through my grieving, healing journey. We were all in therapy. I was practicing celibacy after a very short while after that, which, I had remained celibate for over a year. um, so all of those things were happening. I was traveling. I started traveling by myself. I went to a wedding of a client that I had really only met a couple of times, but they were getting married in North Carolina, and I traveled all the way out there by myself to go to their wedding. Um, so I'm just doing all these things to find myself, find my happiness, because I got to this place where I was like, okay, well, I spent so much time being this man's baby mama, even in reference to, people would refer to me as Chuck's baby mama, and a lot of people didn't know the depth of our relationship, but we were definitely like soulmates. Even when we weren't together, there was still a certain connection between us that was just understood. It was a certain level of love. And to lose something like that is difficult, but I think that my experience with death or spirituality, in a sense, kind of really helped. Um, you know, encountering spiritual presence, sitting with people, doing readings, doing birth work, because birth is that vessel between life and death. So just interacting with those things kind of teaches you to have a different mentality. So instead of like laying down and wanting to die, this death of this person made me want to live. It was kind of like once he passed, a certain part of me woke up. So I started to see my worth, my values, and think about, the type of person or people that he would want me around. Not even just in a partner, but in my friends, my family, using my discernment, things like that. That's what I started to practice, because those were things that started to become more revealed to me after that, And then, of course, you have to think, I have 3 kids. I have to be this martyr for these children. And, this good role model, and the strong woman, being so strong. So throughout that process, I'm going to say probably in May, because I think it had like May on the ticket. So I'm going to say maybe I bought it in May of last year. Not very sure, but it was well in advance. I just bought it on a whim. I watch, Sarah Jakes Roberts on YouTube. I'm not super religious. Most people know me as more a spiritual person. I do a lot of spiritual things because that's the way that I've always connected, in a spiritual sense, and that's how my gifts have always been revealed to me, in a spiritual sense. So anyway, get to the conference, and mind you, I'm like in a relationship at this point, a very healthy one, things are well, just bought my house, all glory to God, first of all glory to God that I bought a house with my business, nobody but God there, so moving, but I did not forget about this. I'm like, oh, the conference is coming up, whatever. The closer that this conference got, the more fear I had. And I had talked about it with my man a lot of times, like the big surrender, because he's a God-fearing man. He believes in God, I believe in God, just I've experienced God in different ways than most people have. So my experience with God has been different. I give gratitude to God. I understand. Oh, but anyway, so in that sense, I just feel like that's just something trying to deter me from getting to the point in the story, and that's not going to happen, because I'm going to tell this story, and I don't care how many times I have to be, I'm not going to be moved or afraid, because I've already lived in that fear, and the fear that I had, when I tell you this story is nothing in compared to the fear that the devil is literally trying to interfere with to get me to not tell this story, because I'm sitting outside late at night. Anyway, where was I, y'all? Sorry, I just had to let it be known that presence is not tolerated, and I'm gonna continue. So anyway, I just had a lot of fears. Like, the fear was, I was in even in tarot, like pulling tarot for myself, watching tarot readings, I would see the Judgment card. Judgment is all about being reborn, reconciliation, transitioning, surrendering. Something I would always tell people, you have to surrender. You have to surrender, the ultimate surrender. I was afraid of the ultimate surrender because I know I have gifts and I know that they're God-given. I had this knowing that I didn't need my cards, but I was still using them as tools, as a crutch, because I was so afraid to just admit, like, openly, hey, this is the God-given gift. God, I'm giving you this gift so you can amplify it and use it in the way that it's supposed to, so I can fully serve my purpose. Terrified, okay? Because I'm like, I won't have control anymore. What if I'm giving this to, I'm giving it to God though, right? But just being afraid, it's kind of like I'm afraid of like roller coasters and stuff. So I'm not gonna go, like, I'm gonna be terrified and scream the whole ride, okay? But I might like it when we get off, you know? I'm that type of person. So amplified anxiety. And of course, we know whenever um, we try to come to the higher power, there is that negative entity that does not want us to. They don't want that surrender to happen. You know, it's all good to talk about it, but to actually do it, like, you can't do that. So, the day I was supposed to leave on Wednesday, I was gonna stop halfway and sleep at my friend's. I had just asked because I felt like we could use the time. I had seen her before, but not long enough. So I was like, you know, I could use the time with you. I'll come late at night, get there around 9, spend the night, leave early in the morning, go to the conference, drive the other 4 hours because I think it was like halfway. So, anyway, so Wednesday gets here and no, I think it was Tuesday. I want to be correct. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. The day before I'm supposed to leave, basically, I stay up all night because I'm just a nervous wreck. Like, I can't, nothing. Nervous wreck. I don't understand why I'm nervous, but I just feel like there's all these thoughts about death, you know, like just, I've never driven this far by myself. Anything can happen on these highways and byways. I'm scared. So I talked myself out of leaving the first day, and I was like, because I had stayed up all night. So at this point, I'm tired, so I can't go, right? So I tell my friend, you know, I'm just gonna leave early. I think that's what it was. I left early Thursday morning when I was supposed to leave Wednesday. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave early, really early on Thursday. Stop and have lunch with you. Go the other half. I should be there by the time this thing starts. She's like, okay, I understand, whatever. Because that night before, I had called people. I mean, I'm up. I called people. Some people I really, you know, like, I've messaged, but I don't call people. But I had called people and talked to them because my man was working overnight. So I'm up by myself. There's nobody here. I'm like nervous, and this big old moth comes on my window right here in the kitchen. Now I'm terrified because I'm a person of signs and wonders, and everything means something, and moths are transitional, and they also mean death to some people. Some people, they mean death. So I'm thinking about death. I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm scared about leaving my family. I want to be able to leave and get there safely. Maybe I should have flew. Oh my, you know. So I leave Thursday. I get my rental, and then with the rental, I had to get the rental on the day before, that Wednesday. It was so much trouble. Like, they were trying to say we couldn't have a past due bill to get the rental. Our bill wasn't past due. Be like, how? We ain't lived here a whole bill cycle. Like, hello. It was just small little things to distract me from going. There was a lot of women having the same issues when I looked online, and I seen, you know, a lot of women. And I even looked in I have an animal oracle book, and I looked in there, and there was something about breath leaving the body, and, you know, in actual death, or someone that is dead visiting, you know, at a time of transformation. Terrified, okay? I can't make this up. The level of distraction. So anyway, terrified, okay? I actually told my daughter to come see it. Anyway, so terrified, okay? Um, but I go. Like, everything kind of is like whatever, but I see a lot of people in this group, and they're having the same exact problem. Like, you know, their flights are getting delayed, they losing luggage, people getting stuck in their Ubers. It's like, okay, the negative energy is there. It don't want us to get to this whatever, you know. Okay, because I never been before. So, um, Anyway, so get there, was really late, crazy traffic. I was like, this is insane to get to a parking spot because you couldn't turn left. You could only go straight. All kinds of stuff. So finally getting there, and the first night was just like supposed to be just a night of, praise and worship, which great. So you get there, find a spot because, you have to figure out where you at, where you're going. Go down to the floor, sit, cool. At the end, there was like a sermon where she talks about like how catalytic converters were, the top things that were stolen out of cars. And she goes to say that that's because of the platinum that's inside of them. And the meaning of a catalyst is something that, um, doesn't change its form no matter what. It can take high temperatures, freezing temperatures, but it refuses to change its form, and in reference, I kind of thought of myself as being a catalyst, in which I was, because like as soon as people around me started to like, fall out and stuff, I was there, and I was somebody that was standing to not change their form in this place, because um, that doesn't mean I wasn't attentive, and that doesn't mean that what was happening I didn't feel or experience. It just meant that that wasn't my moment. I was put there to be, intercede with these people. So the second day, I actually ended up sitting next to somebody who we had a lot of similarities. She was a Libra too, uh, but she was a September Libra. In fact, she had the same birthday as my first daughter's did, like the 26th, which is like, when is that? Like next week. So happy birthday to her. If you watch this, girl, happy birthday. But anyway, so she had sat next to me and she had told me some stuff, and it was pretty similar, one of those I wasted a lot of time type of stories, just randomly, like in the middle of the sermon. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, you free, whatever. And she was being real timid, and like, I feel like the I feel like the energy between two people in a space really matters. Like if I'm with you and I feel connected to you, I can be vulnerable enough to receive the word and receive what I need to do. Like, but if somebody next to you is kind of like, she was totally not focused. No offense, girl, but your phone was dying, you was texting, there was a lot going on. So anyway, which is not to say she was super cool. We totally bonded. We exchanged numbers. Um, yeah. So that's how that second night went, which I believe in the same aspect, because in that sermon, Pastor Sarah said something about the woman next to you being your midwife. And so whenever we were about to leave, I told her that I did birth work or whatever. And she was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, we was meant to sit, it was kind of like one of those things. Like, I was meant to sit next to you. Once again, I'm a catalyst in this situation. Throughout, I forgot to mention, throughout the days I had spent with a coworker an old coworker I hadn't seen in years. We worked at Applebee's together. And I haven't worked at Applebee's since like 2015. Um, so that just goes to show you probably how long it's been since I've seen this woman. But we ended up reconnecting, and we I was picking her up, and I didn't pick her up the second day because my rental got towed at the Airbnb, because my rental got towed. And that was the whole thing. And I literally had sewed half of what it cost to tow the vehicle. So I went to this first night. I sewed a seed into this, church. I'll call it church, as whatever, because the atmosphere was church. We're gonna call it church. Sewed a seed into this church. Got my car towed the next morning, and it was twice. It was twice as much as that. So at this point, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but you finna do it for me because I'm looking at the woman like, girl, this $300 for a few hours of a tow, it's finna multiply for me, girl. And she's looking at me like, girl, you're insane. But I'm like, it has to be because ain't no way. This is crazy at this point. So I'm dealing with the traffic. It's raining, blah, 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 whatever. That was day 2. Okay. Day 3. Um, Mind you, day 1, I stayed up all night on the phone with my brother, then my man, till I fell asleep. And day 2, I slept with my daughter on the phone all night. Y'all hear all that disturbance? That's because they don't want me to say nothing. Because this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets unbelievably interesting. Okay, so I get up for day 3, right? Hang up. I'm like, hey, text my friend, like, I'm gonna pick you up at this time, whatever, cool. Another friend sent me this album, and it was like this old church song album for Spotify. So I started playing the album on the TV that was in my Airbnb. I went outside on the balcony, and, I was having my morning smoke session. And, listening to the music, getting in my little groove, whatever. And then because I'm getting a chill. Then I immediately, like, felt presence. Because, I know what a spiritual presence feel like, but I also know what God presence, like when you're in church and people be like, oh, I feel the presence of God. Sometimes it's real. Sometimes they tell the truth, and to me, sometimes they're not. But me on this balcony, I'm on the 3rd floor of this Airbnb on this balcony outside, and I feel the literal presence of the highest power, because that's a different type of presence. It's a move you presence. So, and I'm thinking this morning that it's time to go home, and I'm afraid because, it's time to go home. Like, I got to drive back home. So I'm back when I started the first day, and I was like afraid to come. Now I'm like, okay, it's day 3. I'm ready to go, but I'm scared to go home. Y'all, God told me that he could absolutely kill me. He said, you could go home and I could kill you. You could die. In fact, while I was listening to this playlist, this specific testimony, and it was around, because this is church, like deep. I don't know if everybody been to like Baptist church, but this is like deep Baptist, old school church songs I listened to when I was a kid. So this guy is telling this story about how he's on the phone with his wife, and this truck flips the car over, and excuse you. This truck flips the car over, and the car flips over multiple times. So at this point, I'm real scared. And God's talking to me, and he's like, once I acknowledge his presence, he's like, that's exactly what I could do. I could kill you. He's like, you could go home today and you could die, because you have to drive 8 hours. I got 8 hours to do what I got to do. And this, to me, in reference, is real Old Testament, like, because, I had started reading the Bible months ago. And, like, in the Old Testament, I just always just envision God as, like Scarface, like, do it or die. Like, I don't know. That's just, sorry. But that's just how I come off, because that's the aggression that's the aggression that was there in the presence. Like, this is exactly what could happen. And he started to show me exactly, how he could take my breath, and how he never did in many times, So immediately I just like lost it. Like, I'm just, and I just was like, I'm just going to surrender, because I know that I have these gifts. I know that I have these talents. And I know that I need to give this to you. I need to give everything that I got, so this can be amplified, and so I can live and do what I'm supposed to do, because I'm stuck and I'm stagnant and I ain't going nowhere, and, yada, yada, yada. So all this is happening, And then, of course, I get like this overwhelming feeling of like, just like calm, like peace, you know. And I don't know, I just started having all these little signs like birds. I don't know what's up with the birds, y'all, but the birds started flying everywhere. And then the train started toot, toot, toot. And then I was like, okay. I felt like I was in church when you go to the altar and everybody start clapping for you, like, yay, yay. And something told me to pick up my foot. And I picked up my right leg. And I don't know, for people that don't know, I got a bunch of screws and stuff in my leg. So I picked up my right leg and it literally started shaking. So I'm freaking out again. I done went from peaceful to freaked out because now I feel like I'm on a Disney movie and I'm about to, like, I don't know, disintegrate into the earth. But it was just an intuitive feeling to pick this foot up, you know. So my foot started shaking and twisted and stuff, and something just told me to get up and walk around on my foot. Y'all, I got up and I started, you know, moving it, twisting it, and it was cracking, popping, whatever. And I started to move it, and I put my foot down. In fact, my kid can look. I put my foot down and I pointed it on the floor like this, like a ballerina.
Why are you pointing like they can see you?
I know, right? They can't see me, but it happened. And I've only had so much range of motion, but I have more motion in my foot. So, of course, then I'm just super grateful and super thankful. And, you know, it's just this overwhelming feeling of like, okay, that's what I had to do. You know, sometimes you already know what you got to do, because I think for years I lived life being chased by God, and God like constantly presenting himself to me, but me just not accepting it because, you know, life be life, and you be wanting to do stuff your own way, but then he be like, I gotta do it. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna get dressed, because you would think that the story over, but the story is not over. It's not done. So I go inside, and all over again, I'm like, I gotta go home, I gotta drive. I'm like, all over again, I'm like, I'm finna die. Where? And I'm thinking to myself, where is this coming from? This whole, you know, mental thing I got going on with the, you know, I'm finna do something drastic, something bad is gonna happen. So I just was like, we're not doing that. You know, I started trying to, this not happening. That's not real. You know, um, just and I immediately just thought about the whole story in the Bible where Jesus was fasting, and he had been fasting, because mind you, I didn't even say this, but I had been fasting, unconsciously fasting, not desiring food for these 3 days. Maybe ate a little bit here and there, but nothing major. I didn't eat a whole meal 3 days. So anyway, and fasting, people say, is what helps you gain more clarity and more, you get a little closer to, you know, God. So, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know, that ain't real. This whatever. Um, you know, uh, but I can't quite shake it. And Spirit told me, God told me to call my mother. He said, call your mother and tell your mother to pray for you. So I called my mom on the phone, and she answered, and I said, hey ma, I said I just need a favor. She said, what's wrong? I said, I just need you to pray with me. I said, can you pray with me? She said, what's the matter? I said, I just, you know, this is what happened, you know, yada, yada, yada. I said, I'm scared, I'm afraid, and this is what God told me to do. God told me to call my mama, basically, and I just need my mom. And so she's like, well, she said, Rashika, she said, if you surrendered everything that you have to God, she said, what are you afraid of? She said, are you afraid that you don't have control no more? I said, I guess. I said, because I feel like I'm about to die. I said, I literally feel like I'm finna die. I can't breathe. I'm having a panic attack. I'm freaking out. Mind you, now that I think about it, this is like in reference to other people's experience because what's that boxer name? We watched that movie the other day, George Foreman. He had a very similar experience where he like, you know. Anyway, so it was like it was so in reference. I'm like, but this ain't. I'm not finished. She's like, you're not gonna die, whatever, whatever. And she started praying. She was like, are you okay? I was like, I'm okay. I'm gonna make it. I ain't gonna die. Because then I remembered this is not, a physical death. This is a spiritual death. Like, whatever. So I calmed down, whatever. Picked up my friend. We went to the conference. For the first time, I got to the parking in time. For the first time, we was right in front of the door. For the first time, it was just easy. It led us straight there. It was no distraction. Everything went well, and the ending was the best because I even in fact my friend was in friend level, which is like higher up, and I was like, I don't care, I want to sit with you, like, because I just felt like us reconnecting was a whole thing. Because the day before we even went to the conference, I saw her daughter on like the college website for SGA. And I was like, oh, look at your daughter. I'm going to vote for her, whatever. And then when I posted about being afraid to go to the conference, she was like, she was going. So I didn't want to do anything but spend that last day with her. So I had the whole, revelation that I didn't need my tools, my tarot cards, and things like that. And that I needed to just do my sessions with people, my readings just with me, one-on-ones and or group sessions, um, slowly but surely. Not on the group sessions, slowly. Don't be coming too fast, because I know y'all. I say that and then y'all start. Um, but because those are things that I don't need, because I do, God has put a certain anointing over me, and I've always had God in me. So that's why I am who I am, and I do what I do, and I love what I do. So I'm just hoping that the people that receive readings and come to me for guidance can come and sit down, or, call, and we can have a different type of session, and it can be even better, because I feel like me just being me and coming to everyone as myself, um, and walking in that purpose is going to be more helpful to everybody in a sense. Um, so I'm hoping that everybody trusts me with that. I know everybody won't, and I completely understand that. It ain't gonna be like no super religious Bible session. It'll literally be like us in spirit, and we're gonna, get through it. I don't exactly know I can't exactly tell you all the details, but I just really want people to be cool with it, because, it happened and it was real. And I think that it's just gonna make everything increase in a lot of ways. Um, and I'm ready to share those gifts with people, because that's what I want, is to bring the healing to the people. And I think all that is God given for me, and I think all the glory goes to God on that. So, yeah, appreciate y'all.